Welcome to the Atomic Impact Podcast. I am your host, Jason Osborn, and on this podcast, we interview successful business owners for them to share atomic, impactful lessons that they've learned throughout their business career. And as always, this show is sponsored by the LinkedIn Reverse Podcast Method, the new way to close deals that doesn't rely on any of the old traditional methods that everybody hates. We use this method to book 26 qualified leads and sales calls in 10 days without any ad spend, outreach, or endless social media posting. To find out more, direct message me on LinkedIn to have a chat. That's Jason A. Osborn, and the link to that will be in the show notes. On today's show, our special guest is Dr. Sheba Wilburn. She's the owner of Queen of the South Coaching and Consulting, where she provides executive coaching, leadership strategy consulting, and also training and development services. So, Sheba, it's great to have you on the call. And I want to start off with a question that I always ask. And the question is this: if you had a time machine and can go back to when you started your very first business, what's the number one piece of advice that you would give yourself?
Yes. Well, first, let me say, Jason, thank you so much for having me. I'm very excited to be here. If I had to go back in time and give some advice, I think I would say the greatest lesson that I've learned, success lesson that I've learned, is steadfastness matters more than certainty. I used to believe that I needed the full plan before moving ahead, but I discovered that clarity comes after you take the first step. And then, each step reveals the next step. And then over time, this cycle of faith and clarity and action has helped shape me into the business owner that I am today. So steady wins the race, build block by block, and then enjoy the process along the way to the destination.
Yeah, I love that. One of the key things that I hear you saying around that is you say clarity comes after the first step, which I think is such a powerful statement. Could you expound on that a bit more? Because I know that whether people are just starting in business or whether you've been in business for a long time and maybe you're stepping into a new area or a new area of growth, it's never 100% clear, is it? Like you kind of have an idea, but what's some tips you'd have around that on just taking that first step?
Mhm. Yeah, so just trying and seeing what sticks, right? I think a lot of times as leaders, as business owners, we are looking for perfection. And I learned from my mentor, and this term comes from Craig Groeschel, the get more method, good enough to move on. And I think once I started doing that instead of waiting months to get things perfect, let me just start here, see what happens, measure the ROI, see how things went, what could I've done better. So I love the SWOT analysis. So just always seeing where I can improve, what were the strengths, the weaknesses, the impediments, and what can I do better going forward. And I think once I took that first step, I gained insight to take the next step, and from there I began to build and then eliminate what didn't work.
Yeah, I love that. So if I were to summarize what you're saying, if I'm hearing correctly, it's taking the next step. Don't try to make everything perfect. And then as you're moving forward with it, basically evolve in what you're doing. And then that's where everything starts falling into place.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. Well, let's look at the next step then. Like once you've started taking those steps and you start moving forward with things, inevitably there'll always be challenges. And I'd love to hear if you're happy to share one of the biggest challenges that you've had in your business, and what was the number one lesson that you learned from that?
Yeah. So one of the biggest challenges that I've noticed over time is that period of drought, if you will.
Hmm.
That season where things may not be moving as frequently and flowing as steadily as you're used to. And the lesson that I learned in that is harvest doesn't come the same day you plant the seed. And so what do I mean by that? When we plant a seed in a garden, you're not standing over it watching it grow. And so you're planting it, you're watering it, and you're moving on to the next thing. And then over time, you see the results. And I think that's the biggest thing that I've learned as a business owner. Um, Not to second guess the formula or the blueprint that you had and that you've implemented, and know that at the right time, harvest will begin to come. But don't get discouraged in the drought. Don't get discouraged in the winter season.
I love that. I love that. I feel like you're preaching. I guess it's so true though, because there is those. I think a lot of times people don't like to acknowledge those, right? I think as business owners, we feel like we always have to be growing, and if we're not growing, we're failing. And I'd love for you to expand on that, if you will, Sheba. Like in those times of drought, what are the key things to keep in mind to, number one, not get discouraged and think, oh my God, this is it, but also to keep that growth focus along the way.
Yeah. Continue doing the things that make you relevant, right? And I think for me, I would consider myself a servant before I am a business owner. And what do I mean by that? Like, who are the people that I serve, and what value can I provide to them? And when I
Mm,
keep that in mind, while I'm in service mode, that keeps me motivated to keep going. So even when I'm doing the things that we as business owners have to do, like the content creation, I'm keeping the people that I serve in mind. Even when I'm building my team on the side, I'm keeping in mind those values that make Queen of the South coaching and consulting what it is, and what makes it valuable to our client base. And so I think, and those are the things that sometimes you don't see when you're start giving of yourself. You may not see results right away, but in the end, it does produce results.
yeah, yeah. And one of the other things that you said there as well, I think is really key is, it's the planting, and that harvest doesn't always come overnight. And sometimes it does take a bit of time for the fruition of that to come in. And I think sometimes business owners, they just give up too soon, either on a plan, even though they may not give up on the overall business, but it's, they don't have the patience to see it through and nurture it. So, any any ideas, or because I know you work with a lot of people around this, like how do you get through that element of it as well?
Um, how do I get through the element of, can you rephrase that for me? I'm sorry.
Yeah, sure. So that whole thing of you planted
Mm-hmm.
and you're waiting for the harvest, but it's not quite coming there. So it's not necessarily the drought side, but you've been doing a lot of stuff, but the not seeing the outcomes you're wanting to see. How do you
Yeah.
keep going through that? Even though you might be doing really well in your business, you may not be through a drought, but it's just like, oh,
Yeah, yeah, for sure. One of the most powerful things for me is collaboration. So I like collaborating with like-minded people and people that have already gone before me. And that way, I'm surrounded around the stories, right? And what we see all of the time is when we really take a look into someone's past that's really been successful. I think I heard that the investor, I cannot think of his name right now, one of the billionaire investors, Warren Buffett. I think I read somewhere, heard somewhere that he didn't really begin to amass wealth until well into his 60s. And so when you hear stories like that, and you're around people like that with those same type of stories, it's very inspiring um, for you to keep going, right? Because we look at time a little bit different than how the harvest is really supposed to come. I don't think we can manipulate time to make it happen faster. I think it's that organic, like evergreens, right? You plant them and you see nothing for years, and then all of a sudden they sprout up. So it's those things that we're doing behind the scene. And I think that mindset of being around positive people, people that have done the work, they have the success, the proven track records, to keep you going and to keep you motivated.
Yeah. Do you know what? Like when you saying that, I'm like, that is so incredibly true. You know, being around people, like-minded people, people further ahead of you than where you are, helps you stay on track and realize that they've been through those things as well. And it inspires you to go, okay, I'm not the only one. It's not just me. You know, yeah, that's phenomenal. Well, if you look at the next, let's say 2 to 3 years of your business, what are you wanting to achieve? What's the main things you're focusing in on, Sheba?
Yeah, so greater global reach, so more global collaborations to include leadership teams to serve more clients, so that growth and visibility, more scalable programs that includes ICF certification, training programs, so that scaling and diversification. I want to also do more executive retreats that include rest, empowerment, team building, and relaxation. I've learned along the way that rest is so important in the journey of entrepreneurship.
Mhm.
And then I want to have a legacy footprint of transformation. So I want to also be able to provide scholarships for future executive coaches and leadership advocates.
That's amazing. That's really good. You know, one of the things, just because I know we're coming close to the end, but one of the things you said there, I think is really important. You talked about rest. Yeah, having rest is really important. Um, Talk on that for a few seconds. Like, why? Theoretically, know why rest is important, but I'd love for you to just share your thoughts on that.
Yeah, in the first couple of years in my business, I was actually toiling. I was just working hard and getting sick. Just I wasn't taking care of myself because I was working so hard. And then when I learned to really understand how important rest was, and developing a rest strategy, I learned that I really get more done in the rest. So sometimes when I just schedule a block of time to rest, rest breeds creativity, it breeds rejuvenation. And then I find that I can get almost a week's worth of work done in a couple of days.
Wow. Yeah. It's so important, isn't it? I think there's a big thing around hustle culture in business and nothing wrong hustling. I mean, sometimes you have those seasons, you just got to put in the grind and all of that. But it's that rest times as well. And the more that you're able to balance that out, it's imperative to growth and longevity, not only in your health, but I think just for sanity as well.
Yeah, and it's important to be well rested to show up for your clients, to have that strategy session with them, to actively listen to their needs and their desires and their wants. So it just produces so much. And so I'm just grateful that I realized that sooner rather than later.
Yeah, no, I absolutely totally agree with you on that. That's fantastic. Well, for people that are looking to get in touch with you and learn a bit more about what you do, what's the best place for them to do that?
Yes, you can find me on LinkedIn at Dr. Sheba L. Wilburn. My stand store at stand.store/Dr. Sheba. Also on Instagram at Sheba L. Wilburn. I am also on Substack under Transform with Dr. Sheba. And then I would ask that you check out my book on Amazon. It's called Never Settle: Transforming the Leader in You. And that's found on Amazon and my stand store.
Amazing, amazing. That's fantastic. Well, Kiva, thank you so much for being on the show today. It's been just great chatting with you. Some really, really great tips that you've been giving there for business owner as well. So thank you for that. And as a reminder for everyone, this show is sponsored by the LinkedIn Reverse Podcast Method, the new way to close deals that doesn't rely on any of the old traditional methods that everybody hates. To find out more, direct message me on LinkedIn to have a chat. It's Jason A. Osborn, and the link to that will be in the show notes below.